Welcome to Whiskey One, the channel for the novice, the curious, and the connoisseur. I'm Whiskey One, and today we're going to try a little bourbon and a little rye from Distillery 291. Stick around. Alright, so today we're going to taste a little whiskey, some Southwestern whiskey to be exact, and I got Jude from Oakvale, I got Daniel from the Albuquerque Whiskey Society, and Jordan from Toasted Barrel. So, Jude, you guys have anything coming up that you want to talk about today?
Yeah, so we actually just released a new single on St. Patrick's Day. It's called Through the Abyss. You can check it out on all major streaming platforms. We also released a lyric video this past Friday to go along with that song. That's out on YouTube and on our social media pages. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram. We have collaborated with Toasted Barrel, and we collaborated on a flask. But moving forward, we're going to be collaborating and doing some fun and exciting stuff moving forward. So I'll pass it on to Jordan with Toasted Barrel.
Hey guys, I'm Jordan with Toasted Barrel. Toasted Barrel, we just do premium barware, luxury glassware, and then some branded products, which is how we got tied up with Jude and Dan here at the Whiskey Society here. Started out just as a bourbon enthusiast, and now it's expanding, and I'm here with Whiskey One and on my first YouTube video, so I hope I don't mess up. And then Daniel, you can tell them about the glassware that we do, how you like it.
Yeah. So Daniel with the Albuquerque Whiskey Society. All the glassware that we have in front of us today came from Jordan, all branded with the Albuquerque Whiskey Society. We thank you for everything that you've done for us. If you've not heard of the Albuquerque Whiskey Society, check us out on our Facebook, Instagram, and on our webpage, abqwhiskeysociety.com. This is my second or third time with you, Israel, so thank you for having me back. We'll do it again soon.
That's right. So if you want to know more about Whiskey Society, you can also check it out on the Whiskey One channel's YouTube page. Definitely have a few videos that we've featured some whiskeys, and actually we had Oakvale on the last time. So definitely a much needed collaboration follow-up, if you will. So we have a bourbon and a rye. Now, we have a blind tasting going on as well, so I'll start with that. We don't know exactly whether we have a bourbon or a rye on the left or the right, so we'll start with some nosing, some tasting, some final thoughts, and then at the end we'll reveal exactly what's in the glass. But before we do that, one thing I definitely wanted to talk about was a little bit of backstory with Distillery 291. Now, the interesting and cool thing behind it is Michael Myers is the co-founder and the guy that kind of started it all with trying to make a Colorado whiskey that was big and bold and could stand up to like the competitors that you normally see from Kentucky, right? And the way they do their whiskey is a bit unique. They don't just age it in charred American virgin oak barrels. They add a toasted aspen stave for the finishing product. And so when you taste their whiskey, there is something very unique about what it is that you're experiencing. The reason Mike Myers started distilling in the first place, interestingly, was he was there during 9/11. He had his son on his shoulders and actually witnessed the first plane hit the towers. And 10 years later, to the day, he started making his first batch of whiskey. And I thought that was really interesting. And the reason I brought that up too is, well, this is sort of a special project for him. He used to be a photographer for the fashion industry. So working in New York City, he already had a lot of close ties and probably made a lot of money doing it. And so for him to start this up, definitely took a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And one of the novel things that they try to instill in those that experience the whiskey is drinking whiskey the Colorado way or the hard way, right? And so one of the things I'm just going to leave you with is his first still was actually made with the copper plates that he used to make photographs. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in, pick which one you want, and we'll start with a little bit of nosing. So, one thing I'm just going to mention is it's a pretty robust whiskey, so I wouldn't swirl it too aggressively. And for those of you like getting new to whiskey, make sure to let your whiskey breathe a little bit, right? Do a little light roll of the glass. That always kind of helps aerate it a little bit, but without like getting punchy in the face, right? So, I don't know who wants to go first, but I'm going to I'm going to look to you, man. What are you getting on the nose?
In my novice knowledge, definitely getting the alcohol. Maybe, I mean, I've had a few rye whiskeys, so maybe some rye characteristics, but that could be way off.
Yep.
This could be the rye, this could be not, so that's kind of where I'm at.
So I mentioned an aspen stave was used as part of the finishing, right? Is there anything remotely close that comes to reminding you of it, like a toasted aspen stave?
Possibly. I mean, I don't know if at this point, if I could, like, pick out that specific thing, but there's something definitely unique in this whiskey, for sure.
Sure.
I'm getting that totally. I get it's like a mint, like a fresh mint aroma in there.
It's a bit spicy and perfumey, honestly.
It is perfumey. I'm almost positive this is a rye.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just smelled it. I don't know.
There's two for the rye, so we'll see.
But we don't know if we've got the same one. That's
That's
thing.
right.
I picked up the one on the right, and I don't know which one it is.
That's right.
So.
Me neither.
Yeah.
How about you?
I'm definitely noticing something different. To try and pick out the two, I'm looking for that rye. I don't know if I have it or not, but then for the bourbon, I'm trying to pick out that vanilla or some type of like brown sugar note. I definitely get not necessarily a mint, almost like a eucalyptus type taste, but it's pretty tame. What is the proof on this one?
50%.
50?
I think they're both 50%.
Yeah, it's pretty tame. I don't have like a big punch of alcohol coming forward, but I do have a different nose. I don't necessarily know if I'm just trying to pick out between the rye and the bourbon. I'm trying to pick out those classic notes if I can.
Interesting you said you don't get that punch in the nose. So with a 50% ABV or 100 proof type of whiskey, you will get a little bit of punch in the nose, like if it's not like a well-balanced whiskey, right? And you would definitely expect a little bit of that for something like this, because it is big and bold, but like you said, it does feel a little bit balanced and not aggressive in any way.
Yeah.
Right.
And because we're doing this blind, because we don't really know if it's a bourbon or a rye, we're going to go back and forth just to see if you can pick out which one it is, right? If you have a bourbon or a rye.
I have a question. How long do they leave the aspen stave in it?
I don't think they really reveal that. So that's kind of a little bit of a secret there. So on mine, I will say, like, I've had plenty of 291 whiskeys. Almost all of them have like that telltale sign of the toasted aspen. They're very oaky.
Yeah.
They got a little bit of that aspen, but they're also very floral and perfumey. Like every single one of them have that characteristic to them. You almost unmistakably pick out a 291 when you compare it to other different brands. So I will say that, like, this is definitely, characteristic of 291.
Yeah, I want to say you hit that right on the head. Once you said floral, that light bulb just went off for me, and I was able to pick that note out a lot better.
You get a little chocolate in there now.
Yeah. If you let it breathe, it starts to sweeten up a little bit, get a little creamier, not so floral.
I'm definitely getting more, like how Daniel said, the mint and Jordan with eucalyptus.
A little bit.
I'm
Like,
getting that.
yeah, like fresh crushed
very
mint leaves or
fresh,
something.
and then floral, like you're saying, definitely.
I don't know if this is just my imagination, but it's kind of rolling into like a hint of like earthy kind of notes a little bit. Not very strong. They're definitely on the back end a little bit there. If I had to guess, I'm going to say just off the nose that I think I have the bourbon. I'm not getting anything like rye, no spice.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that I probably have that.
I cheated. I drank mine.
I figured you would. So we'll keep this one on the left-hand side.
Okay.
And I'm not going to guess which one this is yet, because I definitely want to compare it to the other. So right now, at least I have a good frame of reference. Everything that you guys described, I'm getting to. So let's dive into this other one. So mine's a little lighter. Mine's a little lighter on this one.
Yeah.
So I'm already like in my mind kind of picking it out as something. So this time we'll start with you, Jordan. What are you getting on this one?
This one's substantially more tame. I don't know if, I initially thought just off the nose I wasn't getting into the spices, but, there's a lot more floral notes, a little bit of earth that's kind of coming through, and, potentially some type of like nutmeg or maybe a baking spice hiding in there, because this one is I'm getting vanilla like pretty heavily right there, and I definitely get some oak and, you know, substantially more tame. I don't know if my nose is just opening up from smelling the first one
Probably.
so much. So I had to guess, you know, this one so far is substantially more tame on the nose.
Okay. So I don't know if we ended up getting the same one on the right, because to your point, this one does feel a little bit more tame for me as well. Daniel, what do you?
Yeah, I feel the same way. This one, to me, much more caramel notes on this one for me. I still get a little bit of that mint coming through. So I'm pretty sure I know which one's which.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I've been wrong before.
What about you, Jude?
Definitely getting more vanilla in this one. This one seems more, I guess, tame. I could go with that, tame too.
Wouldn't that be funny if we all got the same one on the right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting a little baking spice. So,
You know, I got baking spice on the last one too.
I did too,
But
yeah.
this one's, to everybody's point, a little bit more tame.
yeah, maybe brown sugar. It definitely different than the first one.
Yeah.
Little pancake syrup.
Yeah, I could definitely
Maple.
get that. Yeah.
Maple. I think that's coming from that stave. All the wood notes, that mint, that maple.
I think the spice comes from the stave,
spice,
honestly.
yeah, I
The
think it probably
spicy
does.
elements, you know, the baking spices, the eucalyptus. Well, the eucalyptus will show up more for the rye mash,
Yeah.
right? But this one, I don't know, guys. I don't mean to like invoke the power of subjectivity here, but I'm thinking that we may all have the same one on the right. So let's go ahead and take a taste. I don't know if you want to start with your right or your left.
I'll probably drink both.
I don't know that it matters, so I'm just going to dive in.
Try with what I started out first.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, man. So this one is definitely one of those that like coats the palate. Very viscous, very oily, a little bit of dense flavors. Now the one on the right, the one that was a little tame on the nose, it's definitely bold. Some of the flavors are a bit like in your face. And I'm talking about like a little bit of that vanilla, caramel, oak. The spiciness of it is really coming to me.
Yeah, it's a sweeter. I think we have the same one. I find this one sweeter. There's some really good stuff coming out of Colorado. I've never had 291 before. I've had lots of whiskey, but I've not had 291, and I really, really enjoying this. I don't know. Is there an age statement on it? Are they doing an age statement?
These in particular don't have an age statement. I will say like most of the bottlings that I've come across didn't like feature an age statement on it. They're mostly NAS whiskeys.
It's the spice is coming from the reason I think this is the bourbon is the spice is coming from the alcohol, and I don't think it's coming from the rye, because I get a specific rye spice in my mouth on the finish. The finish on both of them is phenomenal. It's a very long, enjoyable.
Oh, yeah.
The sweetness comes through in the finish. This one I don't get the burn of the rye in the back of the mouth like I normally do.
Okay.
I get it here on the back of my tongue.
Yep. I'm not really getting like a grain forward type of character. They're relatively the same whiskey, just made with a different mash bill. So, Jordan, like, what are your thoughts on this? Like, now that you've gotten a chance to taste it.
Yeah, so like after tasting both, I think me and Jude kind of had the same thought. As soon as it touched our palate, we had a pretty like heavy forward just spice that kind of rolled all the way through the palate. It was like, I didn't necessarily get the viscosity that you did when you initially tasted the first one, but I did get the oil that kind of stayed with it, and as well as I did get more of a tobacco type flavor that came forward. And I think that's, you know, if I had to guess, I'm going to just stick with my gut that this spice on the left side is going to be the rye. I think my nose was doing decent. When I went to the one on the right here, it was more tame. I kind of had a similar experience with that Dan did. It didn't really stick around for too long. I think the one on the left had substantially longer legs on the palate for me. Less spice on the one on the right. So I'm going off of the classic characteristics of rye and bourbon here.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. And definitely, like with these guys, they're not trying to be like copycat. They're not trying to be more the Kentucky, more the Tennessee type of bourbon or rye that you're used to. Yeah. They're really trying to stand out as a unique Colorado whiskey. So when you drink it, you can definitely tell the difference between this and other types of bourbons and ryes. So, Jude, what are your thoughts on this now that you had a chance to taste it?
So, definitely going back to what you and Jordan were saying about the uniqueness of this whiskey, I definitely get a uniqueness. Now to put that into words is a little harder for me, but it's unique, and am enjoying it, definitely. The power of suggestion is real, and because I was kind of going with you guys on your nosing notes, but since whiskey is a multi-sensory experience, as I tasted it, I definitely think I'm the opposite of you guys in what I picked up first. My left, I feel, is the bourbon, and my right, I feel, is the rye, because on the palate, I'm getting a lot more spice on my right side, and then now that I'm going back and nosing it, I'm able to differentiate that, and then it's falling in line with what my palate's tasting. So.
Gotcha.
I think one of the things that you're seeing, and I'm just listening to you, is this: the whiskeys are very similar, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the same characteristics are coming out. That baking spice comes through both. I still get some caramel in both. I think that's being forward in both.
A heavy dose of caramel.
A heavy dose of caramel, and I think that stave comes through. What were your thoughts?
Well, very similar to you guys. As the whiskey starts to open up, these things start to air out, and kind of going back and forth between the two. The one on the left is a bit more spicy, and if you're not new to bourbon and rye, you typically understand like your ryes are going to be definitely more spicier than your bourbons. It just depends like what brand it is. You don't come across a lot of brands that do finishing with like aspen staves, if anything. Right. Maker's Mark is doing some unique things with their staves, right? Which is, they got their toasted, mocha, 46, you name it, cuvee. Yep. But with these guys, they're taking an aspen stave, and it's relatively straightforward, where you're not getting that variance of different types of wood.
I would love to see how they're doing that. Are they doing it in the barrel?
Yes, they are. They're literally taking a small piece of aspen. They're charring it like on a barbecue grill. I think I've seen some footage of them just literally like charring it. Literally drop it right into the barrel
and just leave it in a.
And they leave it in there for a while.
More than a small. It's got to be several, I would think.
Yeah. So their barrels are actually not like the full 55-gallon barrels. They're the smaller type. Oh. And that's going to reveal something. So when you notice the color of these, they're very dark. The only thing that's comparable to the color of it, the thickness and the richness of that color, is like a Texas-style whiskey.
Yeah.
And we know, like, Texas-style whiskey, you just need, like, maybe 18 months, 24, 36 months before you get that kind of color, as opposed to other, like, distilleries that really need a long time for that. So
same thing happens here in New Mexico. With aging, because our temperatures vary so much, we get a lot of barrel activity in a short amount of time.
So I definitely got like enough to kind of figure out whether I got a rye or a bourbon going on. But like before we like do the big reveal, like what do you guys think about this one? Okay, that settles that. So I think we're ready for the big reveal. We have Greg who did the pouring for us, so we could do a little blind tasting. So Greg, do you want to let us know what we have here? We got red and green. So
yep. Red is rye, green is bourbon.
Oh boy,
I think bourbon is
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had him backwards.
I got him right.
I had him backwards too. I
got it right.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Nice. I don't know how.
So yeah, the one on the right is a rye, and the one on the left is a bourbon, and I really had them mixed up. They're really hard to distinguish between the two.
I agree.
So I'm glad that you two picked it out because we didn't. So at least 50%. 1 out of 2 ain't too bad. Do you guys enjoy this? Is this something that you would get like off the shelf?
I think I definitely would get this off the shelf. I do enjoy it. I like the color on it. It did when you said Texas whiskey. I was thinking that before you said that, and I was like, yeah, it has that dark color. In terms of picking out the right one, I think the one thing that stuck out is when Daniel said how the spice kind of washes over and lingers, and that's what happened with the one that I picked. So
Awesome.
Good.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think they're both excellent whiskeys. I would add them to my collection tomorrow.
Yep.
I think they're great. The quality that they're doing in a smaller barrel, they're probably not aging it very long. So they're doing, when I taste whiskey like that, that's good, and I know it's probably aged a short amount of time, it means that the distiller's doing a really good job of distilling the whiskey. So I'm very impressed. I thought it was a great whiskey. A lot more complex than I expected. My expectations weren't as high as they are, so as the whiskey is.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there in the same boat with those two. One thing I do want to point out, like I had the rye and the bourbon mixed up with you. I think it would be an excellent rye to like start experimenting your ryes with without getting that super spice forward and super high heat, high proof kind of ryes. Because like this was so tame, it was super smooth, and like Daniel said, it was really complex.
Yep.
I think it's definitely a really good one to start getting more into ryes with it. But it fooled me entirely out the gate.
Yep.
So.
Yeah,
really
isn't it
good.
interesting that the bourbon actually stood out as a little bit more spicier than the rye?
Yeah.
You really, like, normally you don't get that. It is the other way around.
Yeah.
Kind of fooled me. These retail for about $85. So hopefully you guys do get to find this. Right now, they're mostly available online or in Colorado. Just kind of depends what state you're in to be able to get it. All right, well, I think that about wraps it up. So we really appreciate all you guys checking us out on our YouTube channel, and definitely want to say, like, we really appreciate having you guys here with us to like share the whiskey, experience it together, and see what you guys get out of it. And you're definitely looking forward to jamming out with some music. Here at Whiskey One, it's about the one you enjoy. Cheers.
cheers.
Did I leave you alone? Did I say Thank you. We are Oakvale.